Hello, everyone. Welcome back to this channel. So just if this is your first video, I pretty much in this series or in this platform, I talk a lot about my experience as a scholar, as a researcher, as a full-time PhD student, and then also I'm an instructor of record. And so in this particular video, I wanted to focus solely on publications and being in the very beginning phases. I'm very new to publishing manuscripts. I have not officially published anything, but I have two in the works. And so I want to talk a little bit about this experience and this process. I had an instructor, a teacher in my graduate program, professor, say to the class, he was like, just write and submit as much as possible. And after now having submitted two manuscripts, I haven't heard officially back from them yet. I'll talk about that a little bit in a minute. But I feel like I'm exercising a muscle and also building some level of confidence by doing that. At first, I was just the thought of publishing made me nervous, right? This thought of submitting a manuscript made me anxious. And so now that I've done it twice, one as a co author and then secondly on my own, I feel like I've exercised the muscle that I feel like, okay, I can do this. This isn't going to take away, I think, from the anxiety of still actually submitting, but it puts into perspective for me now that I've done it twice that, hey, I can do this regardless of what the outcome is going to be. The idea is to, like my professor said, just write and submit. Of course, you want to make sure that you're sending in some good quality work. However, don't get into that idea of perfectionism because there isn't such thing. I haven't read the perfect paper. I've read really, really good papers, but even all that research has limitations, right? As we know, as researchers, or if you're new to the research field, perfectionism is just not a thing. There's always going to be limitations and critiques. And you just have to be willing to accept that it comes with the research life. And so the first publication that I've co-authored, I'm actually a third author on it, and it's in within an area that I'm in, that of my research areas. The topic itself is not specific to what I study, but it's within the discipline of the area that I look at. And I was invited by one of my advisors to join that. I'm a third author on that paper. And I will say, I did get some really good experience with understanding the different parts of a manuscript. So this was actually an experiment research, which is not my area, more so quantitative. I don't do experiments, but I was invited to do a lot of the literature and updating. This was a manuscript that was worked on previously, and I was asked to come in and help to update it, and I gladly agreed to it because of for the experience piece of it. And so I would say if you get an invite from a friend, a colleague, or an advisor to join in, don't think, oh, I'll be a third or fourth co-author. It doesn't matter. I say absolutely go for it because it's going to, one, it's a publication, and for two, it's going to give you that experience. It's going to get you in there, right? The more that you work on something, the better you become. And so for me, that was my first experience. My more recent publication, the second one, was solo. I did I submitted a manuscript on my own, and I received a revise and resubmit, and we call it for short an R&R. At first, I had no idea what people were talking about. They were like, "Oh, you get an R&R," and I'm like, "What is this R&R?" It means revise and resubmit, so it's a good thing. So I got an R&R, and I spent hours revising, and I resubmitted it. I don't know if they're gonna officially accept it or not. I am only hoping. However, again, it felt really good to do that. And this was for a book review. This was planted, a seed was planted by a friend of mine that I should do this book review. The book is aligned very great with the area that I'm interested in. I'm not going to talk about it because one thing that I learned in the process, which should have been common knowledge and just makes sense now that I've done it, that when you submit these manuscripts, it's actually anonymous. And so when I went to submit the resubmission for after I made my revisions, I did track changes, which was recommended in the decision letter that I got. However, Word document shows your name. And I read, I read, thankfully I read everything. And the instructions was like, the peer review is anonymous and ensure that your name is not shown. And so I was getting ready to attach that document. Actually, I think I had already attached it, and then I read the directions. And I had to go back into Word and remove my name, make the paper, just show author and not show my name, and just remove all pieces that would have my name attached to it in any way. Even when you save your document, I know for me, sometimes I use my last name, but I had to change that. And so these are just little things that you learn along the way, which may seem like, how could you not know that? It makes so much sense. But so, for example, that was something new that I learned. It is anonymous when you submit. So when you do your revisions, making sure that you go into Word, and there is a way to change it, the track changes so that it just says author and it doesn't say your name. So that when you upload it, it just says author when it shows who the track changes and what you did. And so I don't know if it's gotten accepted, but I will say in this moment, it feels good that I got to revise and resubmit. And yes, this was a book review. It wasn't one of my actual research from my research data that I collected, but this was something still really great that I enjoy doing. And it was a book that I feel strongly about, and it definitely aligns with the areas that I study. And so I'm excited to see what comes from that. And I will also update you on and let you all know what that process was like for both of those publications and whether they were accepted or what came about from it. But I definitely want to say what I gathered from this really short experience is to just go ahead and write and submit. And I think also, so I'm actually working on a third publication. I'm doing that with a co-author simply because I do not feel strongly or confident enough in that level of research, because we're aiming for a top tier, we're aiming for a top tier journal. And I want to make sure that I have someone who has well experience and well knowledge that's able to support me and be able to read through and say, hey, do this, change this, look at this method. They are able to, they've experienced being a reviewer as well and I do quantitative data, so they've experienced being a reviewer for quantitative work, and so they're able to give me feedback. And so for this third publication that I'm working on, do have a co-author, which is one of my professors. And so I would advise utilizing those three different methods, right? When you're thinking about publications, the first one, not being afraid to be a third or a fourth author. If someone invites you on a piece and it's something you're interested in, go ahead for it. The second one, doing like a book review or something on a little bit more that smaller scale that you feel comfortable. It's still a really big deal, a really prominent journal that I appreciate reading. However, I felt more comfortable doing this book review alone. And then also my third key point with publishing a manuscript is for a piece that you female be a little bit more heavier or bigger, you want to bring someone in to assist you with it and have them as your co-author or your second author. So I'm currently in the process of managing writing for this publication. Tips for writing. I'm a mom, so there is no balance. I just write when I can, if I'm being honest. So for example, I'm on spring break, and instead of me lounging around and disconnecting from writing, I, I don't disconnect. I write. And so making sure that you use that time that you can, especially if you're a mom like I am, or you're super busy, or you work a full-time job, whatever the case may be, as a researcher and a doctoral student, you have to find those plugins and set that time every day to just write. And I feel like that's the only way. It may be a paragraph one day, it may be an entire section another day. Just keep writing. And so that's all the advice I have. I'll check back in and let you all know if there are other things that I gather. If I get rejected, I'll come back and let you know. I think it's all a part of the process. It was a good experience. And then I will also keep writing myself. I need to go and write right now, actually, after I pick up my daughter from school. And so, yeah, that is all the advice I have for this particular video on submitting publications and writing manuscripts. Thank you. Bye.